What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another video. I hope everybody's doing well, and let's dive straight into things. So as you can see, I have the economic calendar up here on the right, and you can see that we don't have any high impact news until on dollar until Thursday and Friday this week. So I'm anticipating a large reversal on the back of the high impact news. We have PMI jobless claims. I tend to like trading these. Generally speaking, these are quite nice to trade in terms of there's a lot of weeks that you can go back and study, and you'll see that when we have these high impact news events, specifically PMI and jobless claims on a Thursday, you'll find that the week delivers very classic in that it'll create some kind of high or low, expand, and then we'll be able to get that Thursday reversal. So this week I'm anticipating some kind of Thursday reversal off the back of that high impact news. So with that taken into account, we now need to think about whether we want to see an up close week or a down close week, and then we can start to build an idea of how we want to see things start to play out as we move into the week. So let's just get rid of this for now. And you can see here's the weekly, and last week was quite nice. I did enjoy trading it, and if you watched me last week, you'll know that we were pretty good in terms of accuracy. So solid week last week, and then now we have this large wick that's been left behind. So I'm going to draw our attention to this, and I am going to split this up, and what I'm paying close attention to is going to be the 50% level of this wick, because that's consequent encroachment and it should be very sensitive to price, especially on a weekly level, as in weekly consequent encroachments are very useful to us when we drop down to the low time frames like the hourly and the 15-minute, because it's likely going to be a stronger barrier for price. So this would be the highest I'd want to see price trade this week for me to remain with a expectation of seeing dollar close lower. So I'm going to just mark that out, and then I'm going to write weekly consequent encroachment like so. And now we have that delineated, and as we drop down to the lower time frames, we can look around this area to see if we can find any significant PD arrays on the lower time frames that price may want to trade to, such as an imbalance or something like that. Now we do have this massive volume imbalance right here, which is useful for us because we can anticipate price wanting to trade down and try and fill this. Now it would be Monday is going to be really useful to us this week, and I say that because if we're expecting some kind of rally, and because of this gap being here, we might find that price goes lower first and then rallies to this, and then that gets to Thursday when we can start thinking about reversal. Now when I say reversal, I don't necessarily mean that price is going to drop aggressively off and start running for these lows straight away. I just want to see some kind of reversal happen on the Thursday, where it could very well just pull back inside the range of the week it's already created, and that will be enough. Or if it wants to get there quicker, then we might find that we're seeing some larger expansion to the downside. I'll explain more about what I mean by that as we move into the lower time frames, because last week the same thing happened. I called us having some kind of up close, and I was explaining how at the end of the week I expect us to pull back inside of the range, and that's exactly what happened. So we'll talk more on that in a bit. Let me just sort out this coloring. It should be 50. There we go. And this is a weekly volume imbalance. I don't know. Excuse me. And then I'm anticipating this to get traded through once it's done all its work in the premium. So once dollar's traded up to at least the 25% level, then and only then am I looking for this to get traded to and through, and then I would want to start looking for this low specifically. Another thing we can take note of is that we do kind of have an inversion going on here. So this low and this high, I do believe this is like an implied gap, as in, price should be sensitive once it gets above this level specifically. So I'm going to mark this level out. It's not going to be something I'm going to pay too much attention to. This is very theory based, so I don't want to speak too much, and we'll see how price treats it this week. But basically my theory is that once price gets above here, it should be very high resistance and it should struggle. You'll also see that lines pretty much perfectly up well, not perfectly, but that lines nicely up with the 25% level, which is also sensitive. If we find that price can't get to that consequent encroachment but can only reach here, that shows a stronger level of bearishness, which would be ideal for us if we're anticipating a down close candle, which we are for the week. So that's going to be everything on the weekly. Let's go down to the daily, take a closer look, and you'll see how this range has been nicely filled now. So we have a trading range between this high and this low that has been delivered on the downside and the upside, this whole range. So this is the range I want to bring our attention to, and you can see how we're in the premium above the 50% level, which is where we should be looking for shorts, assuming we're bearish. So again, I'm anticipating that we're going to do some kind of rallying, and then I'm going to be looking for us to trade through the weekly volume imbalance, and then we have a nice fair value gap down here on the daily that pricing I want to trade to. So I'm looking more at this as our weekly target as of now, but I do believe that Monday will be very telling. If we see that Monday moves quite fast, then we might find that we're already filling this and we may need to just, reevaluate. So make sure you turn on post notifications. But nonetheless, there's not really too much on here that I want to bring our attention to, but I am happy to see that we have filled this fair value gap in last week. You see how we traded up, closed it, and now we're leaving it. So it's going to start hunting for some kind of sell stops, and the next lows it would be targeting is here, assuming we do remain bearish on dollar. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting and deciding week. And then the following, I know that the week after that is the last week of May, and then we will probably have non-farm payroll and things. So there's a lot to look forward to moving towards the summer. But let's drop down to the 4 hour, and you can see quite a lot of heavy consolidation. We've already opened, so I don't want to speak too much, but again, I'd like to think that we can trade back up to this range, completely fill it before we trade through this, and then I'm looking for this fair value gap to get filled, and then down here as a stretch. So that's pretty much everything. There's not really much more for me to say. Let me explain what I mean by coming back inside of its own range for the week. So last week, let's go to the 4 hour. So we have Monday last week, which is here, and you'll see the high is created here, and then it created a low. And then what I was explaining is that I anticipated price not to carry on trading lower, but to return back inside of its range, and that's exactly what happened. So between this high and this low, we get to the end of the week, and look what happens. Price trades right back to the center of it, and it closes the week in the center. This is classic price action. It happens all the time, and that's what I'm saying with this week, and it could very well happen, as in we might create some kind of high, trade on lower. We might create some kind of low, trade on higher, and then if we get that Thursday reversal we're anticipating, it will reverse, but it might just come back into the range it's already created. So price may trade lower first and create some kind of range between here and here, and then we find that reversal just pulls us to the midpoint. But that's just something to consider, and we'll look more into it tomorrow. So that's going to be everything. I don't want to think too much about this. This is why I let Mondays trade, because you see price action like this, there's going to be some of you jumping in the chart straight away. Just wait. I tend to just wait, and then Tuesday should give us a better idea, but I don't think I'll be trading until the high impact news anyway. So let's now go on to GBP USD. If we're expecting a down close candle on dollar, then we want to see a up close candle on an up close candle on pound. Let me just get rid of these so it's more clear, and I'm going to be doing the same thing now, looking at that weekly wick, because we have a very long wick, and I'm anticipating that the 50% level is the very lowest. I'm happy for price to trade if we're going to have a bullish week. So let's get that delineated, 104, and I'm going to write weekly consequent encroachment the same way. %25 level is also very sensitive, to be honest. Looking at this price range, I'm thinking that the 25% level is more likely to get traded to, so I'll keep that in mind. And why do I think it's more likely to? Just looking at the previous week before that wick, so I'm looking at this and it's already traded to the 50% level, so we might find that off the bat GBP is quite aggressively bullish. There's very high potential for that. I'm looking at this range, looking at the 50% level of that previous wick. I'm thinking this is going to be the lowest it's going to trade if price just doesn't start rallying straight off the back, because looking at this, it could very well do so. And looking at the way that dollar's already opened, it could very well start hunting for those discounts. So that's just something to consider. Let's go to the daily, take a closer look. And again, loads of consolidation. As in, when I see things like this, I'm like, it probably doesn't have the time to come down here and swoop stops. It's already accumulated sell stops below here, so realistically we might not even see price create some kind of low before trading higher. Same with dollar, it doesn't need to necessarily rally higher. That's just classic price action, and it already has achieved some kind of buy side liquidity here on Friday. We ran out these stops above here, so it'd be a bit extra for it to run out that high. So actually moving into Monday, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw quite a large down day and we started running straight for this discount. So although I'll mark this out as a potential, that's just me going by the rules almost. Based off what I typically see, I'm thinking now we might just have a large down day. But again, Mondays I don't tend to trade, although looking at pound now, I'm quite tempted. So let's go to the 4 hour, and you can see again stops have been accumulated down here. 25% level, that would be the lowest, but again, it's rare for us to want to take out stops twice, so take it out again, rally, and then come down again and then trade higher. So if it's going to go off, it's going to do it with, you know, it's going to do it with intention, and then I'd be looking at this for buy side liquidity up here as a nice target for price. So let's just get that delineated with a ray instead as buy side liquidity. So that's where I'm looking for price to start to trade towards. And yeah, looking at the way that we've taken out these stops, I'm pretty confident, not confident, but I'm doubtful that price is even going to bother even look down here for any kind of discount. So let's go to the 1 hour, and we can see we've already opened large expansion. I think that Monday is probably going to be a runner, and then we can start looking. There's all the buy side liquidity that you can see, for example, above these highs right here, relative equal highs here, 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 and here. So if anything, I want to see some kind of low get formulated in the London session, and then us trade on higher. But generally speaking, for the week, I'd like to think that we can start to just keep pushing higher, maybe create some kind of low or pull back on liquidity on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then Thursday will give us like a continuation or something. So yeah, very interesting, especially seeing how fast price is moving already. We might find that the reversal again brings price back into the range, so we might still have an up close week, but price on the back of the high impact news, price will pull back inside of itself. Same with dollar, we might find that we're dropping off significantly early in the week. Monday, Tuesday we might drop, gets to the high impact news on Thursday, and then it's only then that we actually see price start to pull back inside of its range, and that can still give us a down close candle. So it's just something to consider again. So I'm going to finish. Hope that all makes sense, by the way. I am going to finish up on Euro USD. We'll start on the weekly here as well. And you guessed it, I'm looking at the wick. 25% level and 50% level. This one, 25% level is more attractive to me, especially with this level right here, similar to what I was delineating on dollar, just inverted. Let's just start that. So again, if price manages to tap into this, I'm expecting to be very high resistance, and I want to see us come out of it quick. And then I'll be looking for expansion, running into daily buy side liquidity targets, such as up here and up here. So we'll go to the daily. Again, we've already ran out some kind of sell stops below here, so price doesn't need to come back down here. We might find that we just run on the Monday, and again, Thursday might bring us back inside the range. And then 4 hour. Some very classic price action, came down, filled a fair value gap right here last week, filled it in to the T, and then price is now leaving it, so it's looking for some kind of buy stops, which we've already delineated and identified here. Beautiful buy side liquidity above here, and then, you know, there's all these premium highs as well. And then the 1 hour, not really much, but looking at the way we're trading, we might see some kind of low get created during the London session, and then expansion for the rest of the day if price wants to carry on rallying like the way it is. But yeah, it seems pretty classic in terms of we came down, traded into a breaker, low, high, lower, low. So we've tapped into that. We've seen a large expansion away from it. We have buy side liquidity above here, and this is a fair value gap, so we should be acting bullishly. So if we are to tap into it again, we anticipate it to act as a bullish fair value gap. So that's just something to consider. So I hope that all makes sense, guys. I know I've said a lot. But basically what I'm explaining, what I think is going to happen is I think Monday's going to move quite quick. It's going to be quite large. And then Tuesday will probably be a bit slower. Wednesday we'll probably see a little bit more expansion. And then Thursday we'll get a reversal, pulling back inside of the range it's already created. So yeah, should be fascinating. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, join the mailing list. All the links are in the description. Join me on Discord, turn on post notifications. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.